What's a bizarre historical event you can't believe actually took place? Europe declaring war on Napoleon. Not France. Napoleon. Hannibal marching elephants over the Alps to attack Italy. Battle of Tsushima in 1905. Russian Baltic Fleet sails the long way. 16 miles and 7 months. Started by them opening fire on British fishing boats mistaken for Japanese vessels in the North Sea. Sank their own ships while conducting target practice. Then were destroyed by the Japanese fleet upon arrival. They mistook the Japanese ships for Russian and signaled them instead of firing. Christmas Truce of 1914. Perhaps it is not so bizarre, and it's just some part of human nature. But it is really amazing for me. I know it's not very old. But it still amazes me that a science fiction author can talk about wanting to create a fake religion and then proceeds to create a fake science fiction religion, and it somehow has actual followers. During the siege of Tenochtitlan, the conquistadors built a trebuchet. However, the conquistadors, being an exploratory expedition, had not brought any military engineers with them. So they winged it. Surprisingly, they did build a trebuchet, which fired exactly one shot, directly upwards, which promptly came down and smashed the trebuchet. This event is chronicled in both the journals of the conquistadors present as well as the Aztec records. Lincoln stopping a fight with a gentleman before it started, with a broadsword. Most people know Lincoln was incredibly tall. But he was also immensely strong. A lifetime of grit, graft, and chopping wood made his wiry frame tight with corded muscles. A gentleman of Parliament challenged Lincoln to a duel for his honor. One day, Lincoln picked the weapons, broadswords. Lincoln showed up to the field of the duel the following day, and with one enormous one-handed swing overhead, lopped a sizable limb off a tree, from a standing start. The gentleman backed out of the duel moments after witnessing the man dismember a tree as casually as one might behead a floret of broccoli. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Catalyst for World War I. Conspirators throw bombs at motorcade which miss but injure others. An hour later, Ferdinand was going to visit the injured at a hospital and his driver made a wrong turn and stalled the engine right in front of a deli. A deli one of the conspirators had gone to eat and lay low. He came out and shot the Archduke and his wife, sparking an international crisis and World War I. That time Emperor Napoleon escaped from the island he was imprisoned on after his army was finally defeated, snuck back into France under the nose of King Louis XVIII and literally every royal guard in roadblock from Marseille to Paris. Then when he was actually caught just outside of Paris, he managed to persuade the soldiers, who just so happened to be former Bonapartists, to escort him into Paris, where he managed to successfully cause the king to flee, on top of raising a full army to wage war against Europe again. The only time in history an emperor took back an entire country just by waving his hat. In 1802, Napoleon added a Polish legion of around 5,200 to the forces sent to Saint-Domingue to fight off the slave rebellion. Upon arrival and the first combat actions, discovering that the slaves fought off their French masters for their freedom, vast majority of Poles eventually joined the slaves against the French. Haiti's first president Jean-Jacques Dessalines called Polish people the white Negroes of Europe, which was then regarded a great honor, as it meant brotherhood between Poles and Haitians. The Dancing Plague of 1518. The Halifax Explosion. 100 years ago, two ships did a shit job of passing each other while leaving Halifax Harbor in Nova Scotia. One of them was loaded with explosives destined for WW1. They collided and one of them burned for a while, then exploded. The blast was a 2/3 again larger than the one we saw in Beirut last year. Thousands died or were blinded by shattering windows. There was a local tsunami, which followed a brief moment where the seabed was exposed to air. And then a monster snowstorm covered the relief effort in snow. Largest human-made explosion even until the nuclear bomb. And I think it remains the largest maritime accident ever. In 1920, President Paul Deschanel of France fell through the window of the train while traveling on the Orient Express. He stumbled up to the nearest signal box in his pajamas and told the signalman that he needed help, and that he was the President of France. The signalman reportedly replied, "And I'm Napoleon Bonaparte." Carausius. Everything about him is boss. A Gallo-Belgic peasant who rose up the military ranks to become a Roman general. Successfully fought actual pirates after waiting for them to raid their targets and so became insanely wealthy. When he found out Emperor Maximian had caught wind of this and had ordered his execution, he flipped him the bird, sailed into what is now Great Britain, bribed around 4 entire legions to join him with the money he'd nabbed, and set himself up in London as the real legitimate emperor. Yo. Why has nobody made a film about the man yet? Entire life and existence of Ernest Hemingway is a big fucking bizarre historical event. The following events are not in a chronological, although they happened during his lifetime, with some sources stating different details about certain events. He contracted anthrax on honeymoon with his second wife. In WW1 he was with Red Cross, and fought in WW2. He had not only mentioned anthrax, but also pneumonia, dysentery, skin cancer, hepatitis, anemia, diabetes, high blood pressure, 3 concussions, and later on in his life he became impotent when he was recovering from shrapnel injuries in both of his legs. He fell in love with an Italian nurse, who later left him for an Italian soldier while he went away to prepare for their wedding. He survived 2 separate plane crashes in the span of 2 days, or in 24 hours according to some sources. He had fractured skull, internal bleeding, cracked spine, ruptured liver, first-degree burns, and a paralyzed sphincter muscle. He got into multiple car accidents, accidentally shot himself in his leg, or both of his legs according to some sources, while he was aiming at a shark-hunted Nazi U-boats in the Atlantic on a fucking fishing boat, armed with nothing but a machine gun and hand grenades when he tried to flush a toilet. He pulled on a lamp cable instead, pulling it down directly on his head. Cutting it open, he had 3 kids and 4 different wives. After getting married twice, he converted to Catholicism, got attacked by a lion he was playing with, was an avid hunter both in Africa and in Na, led a militia outside of Paris, and was charged with breaking the Geneva Convention, and fucking got away with it, won a Nobel Prize for Literature and was nominated for Pulitzer Prize. Was on the run from FBI because he was a shit KGB spy in the 40s despite all the illnesses he had. He killed himself with his favorite shotgun after 2 rounds of ECT in a psychiatric ward. In between all that mad laddery, he fucking found time to write books. When Teddy Roosevelt was shot before he was supposed to give a speech, the bullet was slowed down by the folded-up 50-page speech, so it did not kill him. The bullet was inside him and he was bleeding, but he still went on and gave the speech, which was 84 minutes long. He started it off with, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose," and showed the crowd the speech with the hole in it. The Great Molasses Flood. Jan.15, 1919. Massive wave of molasses from a broken tank flooded the area. It killed 51 people and injured 150. 2.3 million U.S. gallons. Henry starting a whole new religion because he wanted a divorce and the Pope gave him the finger. Everything about the Carthaginian Civil War. Let me give you a rundown of 3 crazy details. According to Polybius, among the rebels, all you had to do is point and accuse someone of supporting the Carthaginians to get that person stoned instantly. No questions asked. An important battle was turned for the Carthaginians when right before it, the Nigerian cavalry led by Narvaez joined forces with Hamilcar. The Carthaginian general, Narvaez, was sent there to attack Hamilcar, but had heard so many cool things about Hamilcar that he decided to join him. After a Carthaginian commander named Hannibal, no, not that Hannibal, was crucified outside a rebel fort. The fort was retaken. Hannibal's body was taken down from the cross, where it had been left to rot and be eaten by wild animals. And the rebel general who ordered Hannibal's crucifixion was hung on the same cross. The Cadaver Synod. In AD 897, Pope Stephen VI had his dead rival Pope Formosus exhumed and put on trial. Stephen had a deacon speak on the dead pope's behalf. Naturally, Formosus was found guilty. Stephen ordered that 2 fingers Formosus used for blessing people cut off and his corpse thrown in the Tiber River.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.